Some people grow up feeling invisible without ever realizing it. Not abandoned, not unloved, just emotionally unseen. Maybe people called you too sensitive. Maybe you learned to stay quiet because every time you opened up, your feelings felt inconvenient. Maybe even today, you struggle asking for help. You overthink texts. You apologize too much. You feel guilty for needing anything from anyone. And somehow, no matter how much people care about you now, part of you still feels alone. If that sounds familiar, there's something you need to hear. Emotional neglect doesn't always look painful. Sometimes, it looks normal. And if you grew up emotionally ignored, you may still be carrying it without realizing it. Because emotional neglect isn't always what happened to you. Sometimes, it's what never happened. Imagine this. You're 7 years old. You come home upset after a difficult day. Something happened. Someone hurt your feelings. You walk toward the people who are supposed to make you feel safe. But instead of hearing, "Tell me what happened," you hear, "You're overreacting. Stop crying. You'll be fine." So you learn something. Your emotions are inconvenient. Your feelings are too much. And slowly, without realizing it, you stop bringing them to people. Not because you healed, because you adapted. And adaptation can look a lot like personality. That quietness people admire. That independence people praise. That "I can handle everything alone" mindset. Sometimes, it started as survival. Sign number 1. You struggle asking for help. Even when life feels heavy. Even when you're overwhelmed. You tell yourself, "I'll figure it out. I don't want to bother anyone. I shouldn't need help." Pause for a second. Where did you learn that? Because healthy support feels normal to people who grew up emotionally supported. But if your emotional needs were ignored, depending on others can feel dangerous. You learned early, needing people leads to disappointment. So now, you carry everything yourself. Even things that were never meant to be carried alone. Sign number 2. You apologize constantly. For texting. For talking. For existing. "Sorry if I'm annoying. Sorry for bothering you. Sorry. Sorry. Sorry." You walk through life acting like taking up space is a problem. But people aren't born believing that. They learn it. When emotions get dismissed repeatedly, people start believing their needs are inconvenient. And years later, that belief follows them into friendships, relationships, work, life. Sign number 3. You overthink everything. A short text reply. A change in someone's tone. A delayed response. Did I say something wrong? Are they upset? Did I mess this up? Your brain becomes a detective. Always scanning. Always analyzing. Because growing up emotionally ignored teaches you something dangerous. Connection can disappear without warning. So your mind tries to stay one step ahead. Protect yourself. Prepare. Predict. But eventually, protection becomes exhaustion. And you don't even realize how tired you are. Pause for a moment. Think about this. When something hurts, do you comfort yourself or criticize yourself? Because that answer reveals more than people realize. Sign number 4. You feel uncomfortable expressing emotions. People ask, "How are you?" And somehow, you don't know. Or maybe you do know, but saying it feels impossible. You say, "I'm fine. I'm okay. Doesn't matter." Because somewhere along the way, you learned emotions make people uncomfortable. So you became easy, low maintenance, independent, strong. But strength isn't pretending nothing hurts. Strength is feeling without shame. And emotional neglect often teaches shame before it teaches emotional safety. Sign number 5. You feel responsible for everyone else. Their moods, their comfort, their happiness. You walk into rooms and immediately feel tension. Someone seems upset. Your brain goes, "Did I do something wrong?" People who grew up emotionally ignored often become emotional caretakers. Not because they want control, because as children, reading people became survival. If someone was upset, you adapted, stayed quiet, stayed careful, stayed easy to deal with. And eventually, You forgot where other people end and where you begin. Sign number 6. You struggle believing people genuinely care. Someone compliments you. You doubt it. Someone loves you. You question it. Someone stays. You wait for them to leave. Not because you're broken, because your nervous system learned uncertainty. Love feels unfamiliar. Distance feels familiar. And human beings often trust what feels familiar, even when it hurts. That's why emotionally ignored children sometimes become adults who chase emotionally unavailable people. Not consciously, but emotionally, because part of them still hopes, maybe this time, I'll finally be enough. And that realization changes everything. Because suddenly, you realize your reactions aren't random. They have roots. Sign number 7. You feel lonely around people. This one hurts. Because emotional neglect doesn't always create isolation. Sometimes, it creates invisible isolation. You can laugh, smile, go out, talk to people, and still feel deeply alone. Because loneliness isn't always about being physically alone. Sometimes, it's the feeling that nobody truly sees you, nobody truly knows you, and if you spent years hiding your emotions, people can't connect with parts of you they never get to meet. But here's the part nobody tells you. Growing up emotionally ignored doesn't only shape pain. It shapes identity. You become resilient, observant, empathetic, deeply aware of other people. You survive. You adapt. You grow. But survival patterns don't always belong in adulthood. The behaviors that protected you years ago may be hurting you now. And healing doesn't start by blaming people. It starts by noticing patterns, noticing yourself, noticing the moments where old survival instincts quietly take over. Pause here. Ask yourself honestly, how much of who you are was chosen and how much was learned? Because maybe you were never too sensitive, never too needy, never too emotional. Maybe you were simply a person who needed emotional safety and learned to survive without it. But survival isn't the end of the story. Awareness changes things. Small moments change things. Saying how you feel, asking for help, believing your emotions matter, letting people see the parts of you that learn to hide. Slowly, patiently, without forcing it. Because healing emotional neglect isn't becoming someone new. It's finally giving yourself what you needed all along. To be heard, to be understood, to feel like your emotions matter. And maybe for the first time, you realize something. You were never invisible. You just learned to believe you had to be.